I really didn't mean to get a Denny. I kind of got in here and I didn't expect him to run the bottom. And I kind of had my hands full and I don't necessarily do that stuff often, but in that moment, like you got to go. I have to get back towards the front.
Welcome into NASCAR Film Room. My name is Eric Estep, and I am joined this week by New Hampshire winner, back-to-back New Hampshire winner, Ryan Blaney. Ryan, congratulations. If I heard right, you just got last year's trophy officially. So have you picked out a good spot for it yet?
Yeah. I received it Sunday morning, the plaque and all that stuff. And I think I'm going to put it next to my turkey.
Oh, perfect.
Right
you got
there.
The space
so,
and everything.
a little surf and turf action, so that's always nice.
Awesome. And then next year you'll be able to add a little friend for him so he won't get too lonely.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Well, Ryan, I appreciate you making the time this morning. We've got a lot to break down. It was a busy race. I don't know how much of the action you saw from your seat. I know you're up near the front for a lot of it, but it was a jam-packed race. I mean, we'll start with the wet weather conditions in stage one. A little false start action. NASCAR almost through the green with an active rain shower, brought y'all back down, but eventually sent you back out there still in damp conditions. I just want to get your POV starting inside the top 10. What were the conditions like from your seat? How sketchy were these first opening laps?
Yeah. Honestly, I think it was a good call for NASCAR to kind of wait it out. It was raining pretty hard at that point, and there was a lot of standing water on the track. So, we got fortunate that there was going to be a window where it stopped and they could kind of quickly run the jet dryers, over the track, give it a once over and be decent. But yeah, I mean, it's just slick out there and you don't really know. Fortunately, we had a wet weather race here a couple years ago. So everyone had a little bit of an idea. Okay, here's the grip. But you still, you're trying to dig in the memory bank and figure it out. But really, my main thing was just get through this portion of the race because it's going to dry up. So just survive this. Don't make a mistake and just try to, keep your track position. So, but yeah, I mean, fired off into turn one, you want to not give up anything, but you also don't want to make a mistake. And so fortunately, we were able to just get through that little part.
Yeah, you can probably explain this best, but is there a reason why in the wet does everyone avoid the main kind of paved section of track? Why are you all on the apron and up in that fourth lane?
Yeah, I think there's multiple reasons. New Hampshire has really the 3 racing lanes, which is kind of looks like a patch, in the corners. And that's where everyone runs. So it's newer asphalt, so it's not as coarse. The water sits on top of it a little bit more than, the very apron or the fourth lane. And it has a lot of rubber on it. Rubber gets super slippery when it gets wet. So just trying to avoid the rubber. That's why you see, in road course racing and other series, right? Everyone talks about the non-racing line when it's wet, or the wet weather line, just trying to avoid the rubber and things like that. Cause it's grease, if you get there. And you saw Josh Berry at the start of the race, he kind of got caught in it and was in no man's land. So you either had to be apron or fourth lane. And if you were in the middle, gosh, it's tough, but you're always looking for dry spots too, so you're kind of searching for, is there a lighter piece of pavement to run in like that third lane, which it kind of got to a little bit. But yeah, it's a tricky one because you can't really see the rubber too well. You just are guessing, here's where it's run least.
Yeah, at least in New Hampshire, because they have that section paved differently, it's easier, I'm sure, to guess the line. I would have figured as much with the rubber. I didn't think about the coarseness of the different surfaces making a difference as well. That's fascinating. Well, you mentioned Josh Berry. I feel like you and the 21 were maybe the 2 best cars in the race. It was kind of the same way a year ago, so a little deja vu there. Late in stage 2, you spent, I don't know how many laps trying to run Josh Berry down. You got to him. Y'all had a nice battle. Eventually, you were able to take the position away and win the second stage. That felt like a statement moment to me. So can you just take through, where was your car so good on the long run, and how were you able to win this battle?
Yeah, me and Josh had a heck of a battle for a long time, really all through stage 2 and through the pit cycle. And, just trying to find, he and I are both just searching, you're searching for rear grip, you're searching for different lanes to try to run faster. And I started to run kind of that higher exit off of 4, which had some grip. Started to run a little bit higher here, which both of us kind of wash up here. And, you just try to angle down the track and get the best run you can. And, but yeah, I mean, his car was great. My car was great. My car was just a little bit better than his at this point of the race. And, Like I said, you're really just trying to, and he makes a little mistake here, gets high, kind of gets caught on that seam, and I was able to fill, that middle lane and kind of get him into a spot to where, I felt good off of 4, and then he let me go, so it's fun racing with Josh. He and I had a heck of a battle last year, raced each other really clean. I have a lot of respect for him, and I was going to race him clean in that scenario too, just two guys racing hardcore, especially at the middle of the race. So yeah, that was a lot of fun, and that established us, and it was nice to win that second stage to get a little bit more points.
10 more stage points. We'll talk about this at the end, but now you're in a great position to clinch the 2 seed heading into the chase. That's exciting. After stage 2, though, issue on the pit stop. You come out, I think, 14th for the following restart. Obviously frustrating. I mean, you've been in these positions before. Everyone goes through these spots where you have a great car. Now you're buried in traffic. You got to work your way forward. How do you manage the frustration in that moment? I did see, and I have the clip here. I'll go and play it for you. I did see at one point a little bump on Denny Hamlin. I don't know if this was intentional, an accident, a message. Was this sort of it's go time? How do you manage the frustration being back in traffic then?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was multiple things going on there. Yeah, we had the bad pit stop after having a dominant car and just trying to work our way through traffic. And honestly, I really didn't mean to get into Denny. I kind of got in here and I didn't expect him to run the bottom. And I kind of had my hands full and made contact, but also some of that's just pushing hard, trying to get back to the front. I mean, time was running out. So I don't necessarily do that stuff often, but in that moment, you got to go. I have to get back towards the front, and a little tap, it happened.
No harm, no
but
foul.
that's just part of Loudon and stuff like that.
Yeah, and the caution came out immediately, so I think the bygones were bygones pretty quick there. But I brought it up because then on the next run, we see you kind of locked in this battle. You're sort of stuck behind a battle between Briscoe, Byron. I think Reddick was in the mix up there. And I'm watching you this whole time thinking, how hard must it be to stay patient, let the 2 and 3 wide in front of you settle down so that you could then pick them off one by one? What are you seeing here in this moment? Because, again, you got to move forward quickly.
Yeah, you just boxed in, really nowhere to go here. I got a really good run here and tried to get back to the bottom. And, these scenarios, they happen a lot at New Hampshire of, kind of guys get stuck too wide and there's really nowhere for you to go. And these guys never really slipped. They were running each other tight. So there's just not really, I'm just searching for air at that point. You're searching for a little bit of clean air. And finally, once they got singled out, was kind of able to start slowly picking them off one at a time. But also, it's kind of the balance of being patient and trying not to make a mistake, but also having to go. I couldn't just ride back there. So we had to be pretty aggressive in some scenarios to try to get through the field. But our car was, really good to where I could, make moves when I got single filed out and guys' cars started to fall off. My car hung on pretty good to where I could really then start piecing our way through the field. And that was the strength of our car was after, 5, 6, 7 laps, I could really start going forward.
I mean, the ability we saw it there for you to just roll the bottom. That was impressive because it's hard to pass out in New Hampshire, but those are cars in the top 10 on equal tires to what you had at that moment, and you were able to roll past them pretty easily, it felt like.
Yeah.
But required some pit strategy to get back out to the race lead, a 2-tire call to get back out front. And then the restart, I think this was 2 restarts later because there was a quick caution in there. Your front row with Chase Briscoe, and you two were locked together. You mentioned getting hung up side by side. You and Chase Briscoe, both on 2 tires, door to door for multiple laps. Are you worried in this moment about pushing too hard, burning up the tires too quickly? How do you balance aggression and patience once again here when you're racing for the lead?
Yeah, this was a heck of a battle, in between me and Chase for a few laps. And, both of us understand, Bubba's right there. He's the first on 4. The 21's not too far behind on 4. So we knew that, we had to establish ourselves and try to get the lead. That was a huge moment in the race for both of us to try to get the lead and try to stretch our legs to the 4-tire guys because we knew it was a long run to the end. And when you fire off on 2 tires, right, your lefts are pumped up to air pressure, your rights are low air pressure. So your car doesn't drive great until they get a handful of laps on them. So here I kind of ran a little high and Chase got a pretty good run on the bottom and I wasn't able to clear, but, it just, getting the lead was super important at this moment of the race, and was finally able to get a really good run off of 4 and clear, and then kind of set sail. I tried to just build a gap, whether it was to the 19 or to Bubba, and then just try to manage my stuff because I knew eventually we were going to catch lap traffic and tires were going to start kind of screaming and wanting to give up. So that was really important to try to set your own pace, and fortunately we were able to get the lead after a few laps.
Yeah, and listening to your radio there, the final long run of the race, they were giving you intervals, letting you know how far back the 23 was. I don't know if they ever mentioned the 21. I did hear, maybe it was Channel 2 I was listening to. They talked about, hey, should we tell him about Josh Berry? Because he's coming pretty fast. And then they're like, no, let's not tell him. It's not worth it yet. But Josh Berry was charging through the field as well. So when you're hearing those numbers, you're hearing the gap, and then you're seeing those groups of lap cars, enter your vision. How do you manage the gap? Do you push one lap, let off another, or are you kind of consistent throughout, especially knowing you're at a tire disadvantage?
Yeah, I've always been a big kind of, if I'm leading, I've always wanted to know the gap to second, because then that really helps me. Okay, if I get out to X amount lead, second and a half, whatever you want, then, we have lap times in our car now. So, okay, can I consistently run this lap? If I'm running this lap and he's closing, here's what he's running compared to me. Can I find that extra time? Do I need to push harder? So it really just is a base for me to figure out how much lap time do I need to chase. And for a while, I was able to kind of match Bubba while I was trying to save. But he probably had some of that in mind too. There's still probably 35 laps to go at this point. So that was really big for me. But really, once you get in lap traffic, the gap number really, it still comes into play, but your focus is elsewhere. When you have open track in front of you, gaps are really important when you can manage your lap time. But then once you're trying to focus on passing cars, the gap is important. Like, I gave up a big chunk that lap, but you can't really rely on that because did I get hung up? Did I lose half a second with lap cars? So just trying to focus on, how do we pick through lap traffic? Because these guys, some of them were really nice, but others are right there trying to stay on the lead lap in case there's a late caution. And, that's tricky to kind of work through, especially when your tires are struggling because it's falling off after, 60 laps or so. But really, I just didn't want to make a mistake at the end of the race, picking through lap cars. And it was kind of difficult. A lot of them, I ran into 2 or 3 groups of 3 lap cars. It wasn't one lap car, a gap, another lap car. It was chunks of 3 that I tried to have to pick my way through. And fortunately, we were able to do that successfully.
Yeah, well, it was a tense battle. Bubba got close a couple of times there down the stretch, but the 12 car able to get your 3rd win of the season. Ryan, before I let you go, Daytona this weekend, obviously it's still a big race. There's still points on the line for you and your team trying to lock up the 2 seed heading into the chase. But even if you end up 2, 3, 4, you're going to be well within striking distance of the championship down the final 10 races here. So I'll ask it like this. Why is your team equipped to go on a championship run this fall, would you say?
Yeah, I think we put together a really good year so far. And, it's been fun working through things in areas that we need to get better. And props to Team Penske on always wanting to get better and always striving to get better, no matter if you're off or you're running well. They're always, looking ahead and looking forward, and they do a great job of just understanding the task at hand and just going to work. And the group is great at doing that. So I appreciate them for always working hard. It's been a really good, last 2.5 months for Team Penske between Joey and myself. And the 2 cars have been having really good runs too. And obviously Josh the last month has been strong. So I think we're getting in the rhythm that we need to. There's still a couple things we have to improve, but I do feel good where we're at, and be interested at Daytona, whole new package and 1 lap of qualifying and then fire it off in the race. So we'll see how that goes. It'll be entertaining for sure, but hopefully we can, contend for a win and try to stay second in the points to be in a good spot starting the chase. It'll be a good one.
Yeah, a lot of unknowns this Saturday night at Daytona, but what is known is that there's no organization in Cup who's had more chase success, let's say, more championship experience the last few years than Team Penske. Ryan, really appreciate your time. Congratulations on the win at New Hampshire, and good luck in the regular season finale here in just a few days.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me.